Attention all personnel. Incoming podcast. This is MASH Matters.
We're back for MASH Matters, and this episode, Jeff, we are going to go back in time. We have built an audio time machine. We're going to go back to the moment when Jeff and Ryan first met.
My goodness, really? Do we have film? I hope not. I hope there's no video.
No, they didn't have film back then, I don't think. Oh. Jeff, this is back in the olden days. We're going back to 1997.
Ooh, doggies.
Many moons ago when we first met on the radio. So this is something we had been thinking about. And then we got this email from Christine. And Christine says, "Hello, Jeff and Ryan. I just finished listening to the episode interviewing Jeff and Ryan and loved it. As a fan of your podcast, it was fun to get to know the two of you better. And I'm sure it could have gone on for many more questions than it did. Thank you so much for doing this because, like MASH itself, you made me laugh, made me cry, and made me love the show even more.
Oh.
My question is this. You both met through a radio interview of Jeff when he released his book. Is there a copy of that interview somewhere that we as fans of the podcast could listen to? I think it would be a blast to hear the beginnings of what sounds like a great friendship. Thank you again and keep up the good work. Lifelong fan, Christine from Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania." Well, thank you, Christine.
Slippery Rock. Wow, my goodness.
Sounds dangerous, doesn't it?
I want to know why it's called Slippery Rock. Let's go there.
I think we can probably narrow it down to one guy who had an accident on a particular rock.
Hey, guys, come on out here to...
He went out walking, trying to think about what should I name the town?
What do we call this town?
Okay, we digress. Christine was one of several listeners who sent us messages after that episode where we talked about the beginnings of our relationship.
Yes.
Wanting to know if we had the audio from that interview. And lo and behold, because I don't throw anything away, I do have the audio from that interview, and we're going to play it for you today.
Holy you're kidding me. The actual interview.
Yes.
Of me and you.
Yes.
Together for the first time.
Yes.
I'm getting chills. I am getting chills.
If this was a superhero movie, I believe this would be called The Origin Story.
Ooh, The Origin Story.
If you haven't listened to the episode where Jeff and I interview one another, the quick Reader's Digest version is I worked in radio for many years. Back in 1997, I was on a morning show on a radio station called New Country Z100, which is WOOZ FM in Southern Illinois. And I was on the morning show with a gentleman named Pat Benton, who was a radio legend here in Southern Illinois, retired a few years back and still around, but is no longer working in radio. One of my favorite people, loved working with Pat. And then also the other voice you're going to hear in this interview is my best friend, Tim Miles, who is also on the morning show at the same time. So those are the three people you're going to hear on this morning show.
Well, there's one more person.
Well, yes, there is.
There's one other person.
Excuse me.
There's those three.
How could I
and then
forget?
There's one more.
My apologies. Yes.
No,
on one particular morning, we were joined by
a guy who slipped off the rock. Okay. It doesn't matter.
We were joined by Jeff Maxwell to promote his brand new book at the time. That was the year your book came out. And so we were promoting the cookbook. You came on the show and we spent a lot of time talking to you, which you're about to hear. You know, when we would do interviews on the morning show, we would play music. It's called a bed. They would put a music bed under the interview. And Pat was in charge of that. And Pat played the MASH theme over and over and over and over again. So I'm going to apologize in advance if you get tired of hearing the MASH theme, but that was how it was originally aired in 1997. That's what you're going to hear. I think you might even hear a phone number in there because that's how you could order the book back then, as people would call and order it on the phone. Mm-hmm. Amazon was in its infancy back then. So if you hear a phone number, don't call the number. We have no idea. Or call it. I don't care.
See who's there. Might be fun.
Prank call the number in this podcast episode.
Hello, can I help you?
From 1997, this is the first time that Jeff and I ever spoke anywhere.
Oh.
And it happened on New Country Z100 in Southern Illinois with myself, Tim Miles, Pat Benton, and Jeff Maxwell. So here we are. Let's go back in time.
Longer, can we?
We could.
We could. No, I don't think Ryan would have a cow.
Coming up next, the Farm Report on Z100.
Ryan, Ryan, you want to introduce your guest this morning?
Yes, we have on the line Jeff Maxwell, who played Igor on MASH. Hello,
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
Well, we're doing okay here, Jeff. I tell you what, this guy here knows every recipe in your new book already. He's tried them out on us already. How many ways can you put on shit on a jingle on the radio? How many times can you do that anyway?
How many ways can you spam lamb?
I don't know. Well, anyway.
Well, I appreciate you knowing all those recipes. I hope you eat them all. They all are delicious.
Well, Jeff, what possessed you to write a cookbook?
I needed the money.
No more MASH.
Are those checks not coming in for MASH anymore, Jeff?
Well, they taper off, as the years go by.
Do you still get residuals from the MASH TV show, though, don't you?
I actually do get residuals. All of the people that are connected with MASH get residuals. They're not big ones anymore. It's been a few years since the show was first produced, so they do dwindle as the days go by. But they do still come in, and it's kind of fun. I don't send the money back. I keep it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Now, Jeff, after the MASH was over, did you go on to anything else?
I went into a psychiatric hospital. I was very nervous.
A veterans hospital, right?
Yes, actually. I tried to get a new show. I wanted to move it to Alaska and call it Mush, but they didn't buy it. But seriously.
Ta-dum-dum.
He's one of us.
I'm really sorry, Jeff, but you now qualify to be part of this program.
Oh, great. When do I get my check?
Residuals are even lower here.
This is radio, buddy.
Jeff, Ryan hasn't let any of us see your
Here,
cookbook.
okay, I'll let you touch it.
Let me see
But that's
here.
it.
He hasn't let any of us touch it, look at it, or nothing.
Well, I don't
breathe
want to
on
touch it either, actually.
Now, some of your co-stars here congratulate you on your new cookbook. Alan Alda says, can't wait to try the recipes. There are several people I'm trying to kill.
Wait a minute.
So, Mike Farrell wouldn't touch his stuff with a pitchfork. So, these are your friends here.
These are my buddies.
Jamie Farr, if an armor travels on its stomach, this is the cook and the book we couldn't stomach.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah,
Aren't they swell guys,
these are
to
great
give me
guys.
those nice reviews?
How do we get your cookbook? If somebody's listening right now and they really want your cookbook, how
I'll
do they
come
get it?
right to your house and give you one.
No, beyond that.
No.
I don't know if we can take that or not.
It should be in bookstores. You can go into the bookstore and you have to ask for the title Secrets of the MASH Mess, The Lost Recipes of Private Igor. You can go into your bookstore. If they do not have it, bang on the table and ask them to order it. If they refuse to do that, you can get a copy of the book by calling this telephone number, 888-439-BOOK. That's 888-439-BOOK. Or you can visit the privateigor.com website, which is a lot of fun to go look at.
The privateigor.com website?
That's actually how I got a hold of Jeff, yeah.
Yeah. If you've got a computer and you're on the internet and all that kind of stuff, you can go to privateigor.com and learn a little bit more about Igor, and you get a book there, or, as I say, in your bookstore, or by calling that number. It's all over the place.
Now, are these real recipes in here?
It is important that I make sure that everybody know out there that these really are real recipes. The book is a lot of fun. It's a kind of a walk down memory lane with MASH. Got a lot of really never before seen pictures of the cast and crew. I know they've never been seen because I took a lot of them. And but it is filled with over 150 recipes that are really truly delicious. And so if you're just a MASH fan, you can pick the book up and read through it and have a great time. If you're a cookbook fan, you can pick the book up and cook your brains out through it. And if you're both, you're going to have a really great weekend.
Now, did you take those naked pictures of David Ogden Steers?
No, I bought them underground.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, not in a cookbook, thank you. Here's one: gooey green, baked spinach and feta cheese, and it's a real recipe.
Your names for your recipes are great.
Gooey green.
You got the for MASH fans especially, Adam's ribs.
Sherman's Great Caesar salad.
Yeah.
I had to include the spam lamb and creamed weenies. How could I not write a cookbook for MASH and not include those? And they are legitimate. I mean, they really are. Spam lamb is not my favorite in the whole book, but if you like spam, it'll make up a really nice lamb recipe for you.
Sorry about that, Father Cream Corn.
That was a great episode.
Yeah, that was where poor Igor took all the corn off the cob.
Yeah, and he creamed it.
Hangover pancakes. Yeah. Hey, BJ, wake up. The sun's shining, the birds are twittering, and the breakfast poached sludge.
You want to know my favorites?
Yes.
Two of my favorites. I love the gas passer chili.
Oh,
Eat it by yourself, but it is delicious. And the gas mask mustard chicken is delicious.
But
good heavens.
you say that people will enjoy these recipes once they're cooked up.
I promise you, these are really, truly legit recipes. They have some funny names, but they are truly delicious. We eat them. My wife and I really, we went through all the recipes, and we ate them, and we created them, and we had a great time doing it. We also had a little bit of help from a few folks who contributed some ideas and things, but they are really, truly delicious.
Jeff, now we all remember you from MASH, the guy who slung the hash behind the camera. But what did you do other than MASH that we might recognize you in?
I was in a number of other television shows, as I guest starred in different shows, a lot of which I can't remember right now.
Early in the morning.
And I worked at department stores as Santa Claus. So you might remember me from those appearances.
Now, what are you doing nowadays? What are you doing now?
I'm in my underwear in the living room.
not quite that literally.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm writing and trying to sell television shows, actually.
Really?
We have a little company out here called JM Entertainment, and we're actively trying to pursue getting some television shows on the air.
I'd like to buy one. Do you take checks?
Sure, absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. Somebody will take Tim's check.
No, nobody takes Tim's check out here. Igor, you better be careful. Now,
He wrote a check so big once the bank bounced.
Yes.
Serious.
That's it. You're in the program. You're going to have to come out. The residual checks are on the way.
Did we mention the book, Secrets of the MASH Mess, The Lost Recipes of Private Igor?
Not in the last 47 seconds.
Oh, I wish I had the phone number I could call to get this book.
Well, I have one. You could call this one 888-439-BOOK. And call now, because I need plastic surgery. And it's expensive.
It's $17, right?
Yes.
For the book.
For the nose. For the book, yes.
$16.95. That's marketing, see. It's not
Yes.
$17. Okay.
But if you're a MASH fan, or if you have somebody who is a MASH fan, this is a great gift idea. It really is.
It really is. I tried to, get the book as mashy as I could by including a lot of the spirit that the show had. Though also, aside from the great, incredibly delicious recipes and the really entertaining pictures that are right from the show and never before seen, behind-the-scenes shots of the cast and crew, are wonderful letters that Private Igor himself, you'll learn a lot more about your favorite character on the show, Private Igor, who wrote home to his mother recipes that he dreamed of. That's how those recipes came about. I found these recipes in an old musty attic, you see. And I published these recipes, and these were from letters that Igor wrote home to his mother. So in there you'll read the letters, and you'll learn more about the other characters in MASH by reading the letters. The letters are very entertaining to read. A lot of fun. Igor was really quite a guy.
Igor, you should put these in a book that you could sell to people.
Well, what a good idea. And if I was going to sell it, I'd sell it at the privateigor.com website.
But you should have a free phone number everybody could call to get your book.
Well, if I had one, it would be 888-439-BOOK.
Do you keep track of the other MASH members? You guys ever get together and have some
Were
fun?
there other MASH members? Why'd you guys come on over? We'll have some eggs.
Not if you're cooking.
Come on, cheer up, fellas.
Now, Jeff, was there any animosity between the movie cast and the television cast
Oh,
of MASH?
man, constant fistfights. Holy
Sally
moly.
Kellerman and Loretta Swit just beating the snot out of each other.
Oh, man, yeah.
Gary Berghoff beating himself up.
When they started, Gary was 6'3". No, there was no animosity. No, none at all. In all the 9 years, I was on the show 9 years.
Right.
The show was on for a total of 11 years, and I wasn't there the first 2, and that's when the ratings weren't so good.
So they brought you in.
Coincidence or talent?
They brought in Igor, the guy that served all the bad food, and boom, the ratings went through the roof.
Now, where was MASH filmed? I've always been curious about that.
It was filmed in Beverly Hills here at 20th Century Fox Studios. That was on stage 9. And that's where we shot all the interior scenes. The OR and the mess tent was there.
Okay.
And the original set, a lot of the exterior shots, when you see the helicopters coming in and all the people running like crazy all over the place, that was shot out of the 20th Century Fox Ranch, which is in Malibu.
Uh-huh.
And that ranch and that set was built for the original film MASH, and it stayed up all the way through the film and then all the way through the 11 years of the television production until the last show was shot. The 2-hour episode that ended the series was shot, and during that production, the camp burned down in a forest fire out there.
It really did.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing that it lasted all those years and then it burned down during the last episode.
Did you keep any cool souvenirs from the show?
Is Fox listening?
No.
Yes, I did. I have a few little trinkets that I kept. Alan Alda's
a
wallet was
helicopter.
one of them.
I don't blame you. I'd have gone for that, too.
What was it like during the last episode? I mean, you've come so far with a show like this, which is a classic now, is such an American institution. That during the filming of the last episode, what was it like?
It was sad. There was a lot of anticipation that was the last time that all these people were going to be together.
Yeah.
And you got to remember that, 11 years, it wasn't just the cast members. It was 100 and some odd crew members as well. So when you're shooting a show like that and you're doing it 6 months out of the year, you become very, very close. And it really is like an extended family because you're in a weird little sound stage for, sometimes 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so you really, it got tense because you felt a lot of sadness that these people who were your friends and part of your family you weren't going to see anymore, or at least is not as often as you were used to for 11 years.
Did you have to go through a casting call to get the part?
No, I didn't. And interestingly enough, in my new book called Secrets of the MASH Mess, The Lost Recipes of Private Igor, written by Private Igor or Jeff Maxwell, available at your bookstores everywhere now, I recount how I actually got the job as Private Igor and how a guy like me comes from where I came from and ends up on a TV
We haven't got
show.
a chance to look at the book. Ryan won't let any of us touch it.
I've read it.
So,
Every ingredient I've read in that book.
But I do tell some fun stories behind the scenes stuff about all the cast members and how I did get the job and how it evolved really, and how somebody who is interested in show business, and if you want to be an actor or you want to be in show business in any capacity, sort of how it happened to me, and you can kind of identify that in your own life and see if you want it to happen to you that way.
We gave
and
up
I
on
would
radio.
recommend it, but
Yeah,
if you're willing to try.
We're all frustrated actors here, too. We decided to go into radio instead of legitimate theater or anything
Well,
else.
you don't have to shave, which is what I like.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's seldom done here either.
That's right.
This is a motley crew. We look like we could be part of the MASH unit, I think.
Well, I've really enjoyed doing radio. I've done some other... I'm sorry, not that this is not my virgin radio experience here, but I have done some stuff, and I've been in some radio stations, and it's fun. I think you guys do a really good job, and I enjoy certainly listening to you talk to me on the phone, and I'm sure you're good on the radio.
Yeah, well, we haven't really been on the air for this whole thing. We've been just kind of kidding you.
Is this my cousin Willie?
Ryan's taping this at home. He's such a MASH freak. I don't know.
Ryan, I have to ask you, do you have a favorite episode? Do you remember?
I have several. I'd say Tuttle is one of my favorites.
Good one, yeah.
Adam's Ribs is one of my favorites.
Jeff, ask him some trivia, will you? Let's see if we can get him on something here.
Oh, gosh.
Here we go.
Well, it's one that's often asked of me. I'll just throw it out, but sometimes people get it wrong. What was Igor's last name?
Okay, now I have a question for you about that.
Okay,
because that's actually one of my questions.
All right.
In one episode, you said it was Maxwell.
Oh!
And then another episode, you were Stravinsky.
Yes.
Which
I
one
was
is
drinking.
it? Well, I was drinking. What happened there?
Okay, the real story is that often the writers would use various things that were happening in real life, and they'd write them right into the scripts of the show. So because my last name was Maxwell, they thought it was kind of fun to throw in the last name of Maxwell. people have asked me if I made a mistake, if my brain went to Cleveland and I just said my last name instead of Stravinsky or Straminsky. No, I can't even remember what my last name is. But no, that's not it. They just wrote it in, and then one day somebody said, no, it would be fun to have it Straminsky. And so that's what the last name continued to be, is Igor Straminsky. Not Stravinsky, but Straminsky.
Well, we're all big fans here, and I wish that we had a book where we could get some of the recipes.
Oh
from the
my
MASH
gosh!
show
Surprisingly enough, I have actually written a book.
You really have?
Yes.
Wow, what would that name of that book be?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. It's called Secrets of the MASH Mess:
Wow.
The Lost Recipes of Private Igor.
Okay.
And it's available in bookstores.
Oh, it really is?
It really is.
Now, if I couldn't go to the bookstore, but I wanted to maybe order it by phone, how could I get a hold of it?
It's easy to do if you have a phone.
Okay. We're okay so far.
Okay, all right. If you have a phone, you can pick it up and you can dial 888. Now, I understand you have to dial a 1 in front of those 8.
Okay.
But you can dial 1-888, and then the numbers 439, and then the letters BOOK, book. So it's 1-888-439-BOOK. And those are very nice people at Cumberland House Publishing. I'd like to bow down and scrape and thank the wonderful people down there at Cumberland in Nashville, Tennessee, for publishing the Secrets of the MASH Mess. Ron Pitkin is the CEO and president of Cumberland House. He's a great guy, and they do a great job.
Jeff,
they did a wonderful
they
job.
They can't hear us, Jeff. You don't have to suck up. They can't hear us.
They can't hear us?
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry. We're not that close to Tennessee where they can't. Sorry.
So if you really want to air your grievances and tell us what they're really like, you can go ahead and do that.
Those goofballs didn't pay me.
Speaking
they
of
don't
that,
send you the book.
speaking of airing grievances, I have a question for you. Now, I've heard over the years that I've heard rumors that there were some cast members who people did not get along with. Gary Berghoff is the one I've heard about.
No, a lot of people ask me about that little jerk Gary. No, I'm sorry. No, I have to tell you, during the production, people are together, as I say, in these sound stages, and it's dark, and it kind of smells funny, and it's musty, and you don't have a lot to do between
Sounds like our
scenes.
studio.
Yeah, I mean, it starts to get to you after a while, and of course, there were a lot of cast members, and they're very, very strong personalities and very creative people. There is a lot of tension because everybody wants to do a really good job, and there's a lot of money at stake because the production costs are quite high. So there's going to be disagreements. You can't help that. I'm sure occasionally you guys even have some.
No.
Yeah, well, see, all right, you're the exception. So those disagreements can come up when some people have very specific opinions. And however, because these were all very adult people, which I also talk about in The Secrets of the MASH Mess, my new book, we were able to work all those problems and issues out in an adult manner instead of like the postal workers do.
Everybody knows, I guess, that the program was really influenced. The writers were really influenced by the people who took over the characters. The stars of the show. Did you have any influence on how your character was developed with the writers?
Was it developed?
Not much.
Wait a minute. What character was that?
You're the only guy who got a cookbook out.
That's right. The name of the character I kind of created, and that's...
Maxwell, yeah.
Yeah, Maxwell.
Stravinsky, whatever your name is.
The actors, I'm often asked about whether the show was improvisational, and it was not. No words ever that you saw on that show were ever improvised. It was always very, very scripted. And that's kind of the talent of all of the actors, that everybody was able to make it seem like it was improvisational, but it was very, very, very strictly written. And once the dialogue was set, it was set. Now, people could contribute ideas and could say, gee, I think my character shouldn't say, football, they should say baseball. And then the writers would go back and go, okay, and take that into consideration. But once they came back on the final script, it was set, and you couldn't really do much about it.
Well, Ryan, we are almost out of time. You got a final question?
I do.
This is Ryan's program today.
Sorry,
this is in honor of Ryan,
taking
as
this
a matter
over.
of fact.
They're saying, okay, the last episode of Seinfeld is coming up. And I've heard reports that they're predicting that it's going to beat MASH, the ratings, which got a 60 share. So what do you think?
I don't think it will beat MASH. I think Seinfeld is a television show.
Yeah.
No, it's a good show, and it's obviously very popular. I don't think it's going to beat MASH, but if it does, I think that it's probably that more people are watching television at the time.
Yeah.
To allow it to happen. My bet is it won't beat MASH. Okay. I think MASH touched a nerve throughout the country because of at the time the wars that were happening and the political scene that was on the horizon. That I think is going to that I think attracted more viewers than actually Seinfeld will. So my bet is that it won't beat MASH, and if it does, I will come to everybody's house and cook creamed wings.
All right, and the last question here: what are your favorite episodes?
I like Adam's Ribs as well, because that big scene with Hawkeye and Igor where Hawkeye starts yelling at Igor about the river of liver and an ocean of fish.
We want something else.
I want something else. That was a really fun scene to be a part of. And there are pictures of that in my new book, Secrets of the MASH Mess, The Lost Recipes of Private Igor, written by Private Igor himself, Jeff Maxwell.
Jeff, if I had a phone, what number would I call to order that
book?
book?
My gosh, if you had a phone, you could call this number, 1-888-439-BOOK. Or if you have a computer, you can bring it to my house.
Really?
Yes. Or if you don't want to do that and you just would rather order the book, you can dial up the privateigor.com website. That's www.privateigor.com, PRIVATEIGOR, all lowercase.com.
Okay. I will wholeheartedly recommend this book to our listeners. It is a fun book because it's got a lot of neat recipes and a little story with every recipe that talks about the show MASH. So if you're a MASH fan, definitely get this book. And if you're a cooking fan, I'd get it because the recipes look pretty interesting to me.
Well, this was my thank you to all the fans of MASH. I love them because they certainly kept me in a job for 9 years. And I enjoyed so much being a part of the show and experiencing that 9 years of a wonderful experience that I hope to share it with everybody in this book.
And their thank you to you is the $17 they spend on the book.
Indeed. A fair trade, wouldn't you say?
Jeff, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you
You've been a
so
lot of fun.
much.
If you ever get to L.A., come on in. We'll have Jerry's Bloody Mary mix.
Okay. All right. See you then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye.
All right. Jerry Maxwell. Private Igor.
He just invited
MASH.
you to L.A., Ryan.
Yeah.
You know Ryan's
See ya.
going too.
I love this.
See, the guy doesn't know that Ryan is a trained stalker.
No.
So, New Country Z100. Wyatt Drake's up next with a look at the news. Hope you appreciated that. And what was the name of that cookbook again?
It's Secrets of the MASH Mess by Jeff Maxwell. You can order it at 1-888-439-BOOK.
There you go. We are now back in the future.
That was beautiful. Ryan, please, that was beautiful.
We were so young back then.
So young. We were so pretty.
Yeah.
Weren't we pretty?
Young, fresh, idealistic. Yes.
Oh, yes. Innocent. Yeah. We were babes in the woods, really.
Now here we are, all grizzled and jaded.
Cynical.
Yeah.
Miserable human being. Just like the rest of you. What could I say? No, I'm just kidding.
It was fun to go back and listen to that.
It was fun to listen to it. And it was fun to have met you. That was a fun day for me. You know, all those interviews, I'm in Los Angeles and you were in Illinois. So I had to get up very, very, very early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was up at probably 3:30 in the morning prepping for the interview.
Yeah.
Because there were a number. I would do like 3 or 4 of them during the day. And I remember yours stood out. It was kind of an immediate reckoning for me that this guy was pretty cool and he was a good guy and I was in hams. And it's interesting that when you feel that, you're able to relax and say, they know what they're doing. All I have to do is show up and do stuff and say things and say words. But when somebody doesn't know what they're doing, then it's difficult and you feel like you have to kind of run things a little bit. But I was so relaxed with you guys. So I thank you for being there. Thank you for doing that. It was a really good interview. And that was a lot of fun to hear.
After listening to me geek out for 25 minutes with you on the radio, I want to thank you for not filing a restraining order against me. You had every right to do that. I was a big fanboy there. Sorry about that.
Well, I did file a restraining order. I don't know. I guess it didn't reach you, but don't worry about it. And I have to say about the book, and we talked about the book, certainly, because that was the point of it, Secrets of the Mash Mess, The Lost Recipes of Private Igor. And it was a book that's near and dear to my heart. I wrote it as a way of kind of saying what Igor's experience was in the whole MASH experience. And it was in the disguise of a cookbook, but it was really my feelings about a lot of things and a lot of people. But it was a good cookbook, and it is a good cookbook. And all of those recipes, over 200 and some odd recipes, were all eaten by me and other people. And nobody fell apart or got sick. So we decided to put them in the book. But they were all created not only by me, but a lot of really good chefs. So they're really good, valid recipes. My problem is that during the process of publishing a book, things can happen. And at one point, the original publisher, for various reasons, misplaced the files of the book that actually allow you to print the book. And so it was being printed with much less quality than it was printed from the original files, because the original files didn't exist anymore. So for a long time on Amazon, if you bought the book, you were buying not the quality printed version, but you were buying a reproduction of that book. And so the quality of the printing, quality of the pictures diminished greatly. And when I saw it, and I didn't know that it had, but when I saw it, I had a nervous breakdown and said, wait a minute, this isn't what I did. And it represented me and my name, and I was very unhappy with it. So through a long, protracted process that I went through with the publisher, I gained the total rights to the book. And so I am in the process right now of recreating it so that the quality will be of the original printing and not what kind of was sold for quite some time. So if anybody has one of those books that is not of great quality, I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault. It's still pretty cool and you can still see stuff, but it just wasn't right. But it will be. I'm going to make it right. And I promise I will. And when it is, I'll let everybody know and you can buy it. Now, I believe you can still buy the book on Amazon, but you're buying used copies. So I don't know the technicalities of what happens if you buy one, but I think you get used copies and probably used copies from the original printing. So they may be better than when they were, printing the other version. So
you could probably find some original copies on eBay as well if you can't wait.
Yes, you can. If you cannot wait for me to remedy this, and I'm working on it, I swear.
In the meantime, you can find the recipes for creamed weenies and gas passer chili at mashmatters.com. We take no responsibility for what happens if you eat the creamed weenies or the gas passer chili. That's our disclaimer. We cannot take responsibility for what happens.
Call my attorney, Les A. Bell, if you end up with something serious.
That does it for this episode of Mash Matters.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh my gosh.
What more do you want? We went back in time. We came back. We gave away chili. I mean, this episode has everything.
Well, I got to say, this was a great episode to hear all that. And Mr. Ryan Patrick, it was very nice meeting you.
Likewise. All right. We'll see you next time. Until then, here's looking up your old address.